Once upon a time, B.o.B was one of the hottest artists around the globe. Hit records, worldwide success, and collabs with music's biggest stars. But then suddenly, overnight, B.o.B's career was destroyed, all thanks to his own actions.
From my understanding, Donald has seen a clone of me in the cloning center.
Some stuff just kind of sticks with you, man. You know, it's like, it's the era of, you know, cancel culture and, you know, people finding old things you said, or, you say one wrong thing and you're done for.
As we're about to see, unfortunately, B.o.B has said more than just one wrong thing, and as a result, his career fell off the edge of the earth. However, the even bigger question we need to answer, why did B.o.B crash out so hard in the first place? On the extremely rare occasion when a new artist breaks onto the scene with 3 top 10 hits, 5 Grammy nominations, and features from Eminem, Lupe Fiasco, Hayley Williams, and Bruno Mars all on their debut album, they aren't just labeled as hot, but rather music's next rising star, which is exactly what B.o.B turned into back in 2010. But the truth is, prior to dripping in massive chains, Bobby Ray Simmons had been living a totally different life.
What's the first memory that comes to your mind before releasing the album?
About on the verge of being evicted.
Oh, damn.
I grew up in a house where it really wasn't finished. It was just kind of like a shack, pretty much. Like, I'm talking about like no walls.
Going on to enroll in high school about 15 minutes outside of Atlanta, despite playing trumpet in the school band, and despite his parents' desire for him to get his education. After they had bought Bob his first keyboard to make beats on, his mind was set on music, and he wasn't about to stop until he made it.
Like, all I wanted to do was just stay at home and make beats. Like, that's all I wanted to do. You know, we were so broke, man. I was like, all right, I ain't doing this shit. Like, we're gonna do something about this.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Bob would indeed do something about his family's financial struggles, and in fact, it didn't take long either, because after selling his first beats as a producer, B.o.B actually landed his first record deal and dropped out of school in the 9th grade.
When I first signed, I signed with Jim Johnson, Rebel Rock in Miami, and T.I., Grand Hustle, and Atlantic. And then my manager at the time had a management company. You know, it was so many people involved.
Although it is now a lot more simple since he was dropped by every one of them. In addition to Atlantic Records though, B.o.B used to also be signed under fellow Atlanta rapper T.I. after he snuck into his club one night to perform. Thus, it was no surprise to see B.o.B featured on T.I.'s critically acclaimed Paper Trail album. Yet, with that said, this was nothing compared to 2010 when the hits began pouring in. Within a span of just months, B.o.B would really go from sharing a tiny apartment with his mom to then sharing the spotlight next to music's biggest stars. But, as it turns out, B.o.B's first #1 hit was never even supposed to be his.
Nothin On You. You already know where my heart be at, tempo that my heart beat at, boom.
As you just heard, the 6-time platinum Nothin On You featuring Bruno Mars was originally meant to go to a different rapper, Lupe Fiasco. I really don't know what the politics were behind it, B.o.B told Billboard, but Lupe ended up just not wanting anything to do with the song. Whatever the reason really was, he missed out. Like Atlantic CEO deems Nothin On You a quote, one listen smash. That's honestly very accurate.
You can't get away. You could be in a casino and it'll be nothing on you. You know, the airport, you know, the club. Like, that was one of those records that the world listened to.
That record, I mean, everything changed. Everything changes. The people around you, your family, your friends, your strangers you don't know. Everything changes, and it's good, bad.
Released as the lead single for his debut album, Again the Adventures of Bobby Ray was meant for the type of overwhelming success that new artists almost never achieve. It was a landmark album for its time, his label CEO added back in 2010. That was prior to their messy split that also went down 5 years later, but distributed via both Atlantic and T.I.'s Grand Hustle imprint, and featuring a verse by T.I. himself, as well as Lupe Fiasco, Eminem, and Hayley Williams of Paramore, to name a few, on the Diamond certified Airplanes.
Airplanes, B.o.B featuring Hayley Williams. Just motherfucking went diamond!
You know, you go from begging people to sing your song to you don't even have to sing your song no more, you know what I mean?
Not to mention another nostalgic banger too, titled Magic, which became the 3rd hit from this project to reach the top 10, showcasing his incredible talent to balance both pop and rap. At this point, you're probably wondering though, how did B.o.B lose everything so fast? Like, how did he go from the top of the charts to now the top of headlines, spewing every controversial conspiracy theory under the sun?
Every 1/4 of a mile, you see these towers popping up, which aren't cell phone towers. And if you actually look at the specifications of these towers, they're way more powerful than what a cell phone tower should be.
Well, if you ask me, this definitely does not excuse the wild theories that Bob would later try to push, like arguing that slavery never existed. Considering how fast his blow-up did happen though, this left B.o.B almost no time to adjust to how drastically his life changed, and the fame hit him square on. I wasn't that underground Bob anymore. I was the beautiful girls, cardigan sweater wearing, Malcolm X glasses Bob. All of a sudden I have these huge Grammy-nominated records and I'm traveling the world, he said. Somehow, I guess not looking out and seeing the curve of the horizon on any of these flights, but it's almost like the world didn't get to discover who I was. I was just these records. Met with mixed feelings surrounding his newfound fame. At this point, instead of slowing down, B.o.B kept his foot right on the gas. As 2011 arrived, so did B.o.B's next mainstream hit. Yet, besides his link up with Jessie J for Price Tag, it was 1 month later when B.o.B found himself dragged into his first rap beef.
I'll crash that airplane at that nigga Bob.
15 years ago, Tyler the Creator randomly decided to diss both B.o.B and Haley Williams on his new song Yonkers. And as we'll see, while he would later go from dissing Tyler to then dissing NASA astronauts, back in 2011 though came B.o.B's No Future response, aimed at Tyler the Creator and his Odd Future collective.
Keep with me, you ain't gonna have no future.
But he still wasn't finished. To keep his momentum rolling, led by the fire single Strange Clouds featuring Lil Wayne, 1 year later arrived B.o.B's new album by the same name. And if you thought that his debut was stacked with big stars, take a listen to this feature list.
Had Morgan Freeman, Taylor Swift, Chris Brown, Nicki Minaj.
Big enough to get a feature from literally Taylor Swift, there was no denying that B.o.B was a star. However, it wasn't all as good as it seemed. Despite even more hits that same year, including the club anthem, We Still In This Bitch, and then one more massive single with 2 Chainz titled Headband, despite all of his success on paper, in reality, B.o.B was struggling behind the scenes. The fame was simply not fulfilling. I was getting further and further away from my connection to the music, he admitted. Headband featuring 2 Chainz would go on to serve as the single for B.o.B's third album, but while the song was a hit, this album on the other hand was not, marking a steep decline on the charts, debuting at number 22, and selling 35,000 in first week units, which compared to his previous 84K, left many fans wondering if something was secretly going on behind the scenes. If fans thought this was bad though, 2015 was the year that changed everything. With a name like Psychedelic Thoughts and a cover art this corny, and remember, unfortunately someone really photoshopped this since this was before AI and ChatGPT. Despite its hip-hop/rap label, as you could probably guess by the title, this project was a different sound than we were used to. Still released via Atlantic Records, actually marking his last album with them though before getting dropped, Psychedelic Thoughts was lucky to even crack the charts at all.
I put out Psychedelic Thoughts. It didn't get as much support as I would have liked it would have gotten. And I put a lot into that album, man. Like I was in the studio late night, guitar, bass, I had instrumentalists come in and
claiming that he put a lot of time and effort into his third album only for it to totally flop. Rather than accepting the negative response though, B.o.B instead decided to throw all of the blame at his record label, kicking off his online crash out. There's a ban on B.o.B, he began on Twitter back in December of 2015. My own label doesn't even promote my albums, mixtapes, or events. Zero promo. None, zero. They boycott me. They're afraid I will get too much exposure. I've never heard a record label say that, but okay. When people say I'm underrated or slept on, it's not entirely the case. Suppressed is a better word. Before then closing with, thank God T.I. got my back, and he's still in my corner. Clearly, B.o.B and Atlantic Records no longer saw eye to eye anymore. And feeling frustrated with everything going on, it was at this point when B.o.B stepped away from music.
Sometimes, if something is frustrating you, or if you're becoming frustrated from something, you probably need to just put it down, walk away from it and come back to it. You know what I mean? And I was very frustrated.
Now it's important to note that rappers beefing with their labels is by no means anything new. And like B.o.B here, it often stems back to lack of promotion. However, while again this is pretty common in the industry, the lengths of which B.o.B took things next is not. And ultimately, what happened next destroyed his promising career. Rather than multi-platinum hits, in 2015, B.o.B instead decided to put his tinfoil hat on and started launching crazy conspiracy theories left and right. Everything took a strange turn right here, as in place of his label, B.o.B was now starting to rant on Twitter about his human cloning theory. Every time you see a celebrity randomly lose their mind, equals cloning center, he typed. Hundreds of kids go missing each year, cloning center. But I'm afraid this was only the beginning. Remember, if anything happens to me, it was a cover-up. Following his rant out of left field about cloning centers, each week it felt like B.o.B was online pushing some new conspiracy. However, none drew more attention than this one.
Flat Earth shit blew up. My Twitter was getting notifications so fast it was glitching. It was freezing up and making my whole phone freeze.
Wow.
The cities in the background are approximately 16 miles apart. But where is the curve? Please explain this, B.o.B asked his millions of followers in January of 2016, questioning the true shape of our planet. And while at first many fans hoped he was joking, a lot of people are turned off by the phrase flat earth, he continued. But there's no way you can see all of the evidence and not know. Grow up. No matter how high in elevation you are, the horizon is always eye level. Sorry, cadets, I didn't want to believe it either.
If you spent any time on Twitter in the past 48 hours, then you heard about our next story.
Rapper B.o.B, perhaps you know him for hits like Airplanes and Nothin On You. He firmly believes that the earth is flat. He is on a Twitter mission to prove it.
To be true and not just to like really give yourself to a theory, I can only like speak on what I have found or what I can't find. So I've never been to the edge, or if there's even an edge.
Well, then that's why it's a globe, because there's no edge.
Well, I can't find any evidence.
I'm going up against the greatest liars in history. You've been tremendously deceived. As the hate and jokes continued flying in on a day when B.o.B became the laughingstock of the internet, well, at least people are better at insulting me than they are at thinking. Don't believe what I say, research what I say. When it came to what type of research Bob exactly recommended, the always scientifically fact-checked YouTube videos, such as the 2 he shared in his next post. If my tweets are rattling the tiny cages of your reality, the unfollow button is right there. Obeying his request, B.o.B would indeed lose a great deal of followers after his flat earth rant, but not before the drama blew up even bigger thanks to Neil deGrasse Tyson, a famous astrophysicist himself. At B.o.B, Earth's curve indeed blocks 150 feet of Manhattan, but most buildings in Midtown are way taller than that, Tyson tweeted, attempting to disprove Bob's theory. But to be clear, being 5 centuries regressed in your reasoning doesn't mean we all can't still like your music. However, I'm not sure he liked his music after what he did next. As ridiculous as it is to say, B.o.B then decided to actually release a new diss track aimed at Neil deGrasse Tyson only days later, titled Flatline, which, combined with these lyrics and name-dropping him,
Hey, Neil Tyson need to loosen up his vest. Probably write that man one hell of a check. Hey.
Flatline also hears B.o.B rap about his other favorite conspiracies too, including his theory again on human clones, as well as this random bar about mirror lizards, which, if you don't know, are believed to be a human and reptile combination whose true form can only be seen in the mirror. Like its title and cover art shows us, the main purpose behind the track was to double down on his flat earth beliefs.
Beat that, soldier boy. I'm the first rapper to diss science, nigga.
Dear B.o.B, as an astrophysicist, I don't rap, but I know people who do, Tyson responded. This one has my back. Enlisting the help of his nephew, who was trying to build a rap career of his own, one day after Flatline then arrived Flat to Fact by Neil Tyson's nephew, attempting, at least, to rap over Drake's back-to-back beat.
B.o.B has gotta know the planet is a sphere, G. Whoa.
All right, listen, B.o.B, once and for all. The Earth looks flat because, one, you're not far enough away at your size. The Earth isn't flat. And by the way, this is called gravity.
NASA, you gotta do better with your Photoshop. Clearly you can see the pixelation. Bob typed in the comments of this picture from space. Anybody who knows Photoshop knows this is an anomaly in the editing. With his mind clearly set and unwilling to listen to any opposing arguments, along with making it official and joining the Flat Earth Society in summer of 2016, receiving this certificate here to prove his membership, B.o.B would even go on the Breakfast Club to defend his stance.
But I love having discussions because they always say that we don't have no proof the Earth is round. I'm like, well, y'all don't really have proof the Earth is flat. It's just an opinion, really.
Well, you know, it's true. And also, the first civilization to introduce the globe, Earth, was the Roman Empire, and they wasn't going into space back then either, so I don't know how they were able to prove that it was round.
In addition to claiming that all of NASA's pictures have been photoshopped, as well as saying the Apollo 11 moon landing mission was fake, like we're about to see, in an effort to find out the truth for himself, in 2017, Bobby Ray launched this comical GoFundMe campaign, with the goal for fans to, quote, help Bob purchase and launch multiple weather balloons and satellites into space for exploration. He has donated $1K to the cause to get it going. Help Bob find the curve.
He currently has a crowdfunder, this campaign to prove or disprove that the Earth is flat. He wants to launch satellites, weather balloons, drones, blimps.
No way. Thankfully, as it stands to this day, if we subtract that $1,000 out that he donated himself, this GoFundMe only raised $4,000 out of Bob's goal for $1 million. In my opinion though, that's still $4K down the drain. I can save Bob a lot of money. Another retired NASA astronaut added on Twitter, "The Earth is round. I flew around it." But, over the years, as we have seen, B.o.B is not the only famous celebrity to seriously believe that our Earth is flat.
This is not even conspiracy.
The Earth is flat.
Yeah, no, the Earth is flat.
Oh, here we go.
The Earth is flat.
You've seen pictures of the planet, though, right? Like it's a circle. So
I've seen a lot of things that that my educational system has said that was real and turned out to be completely fake. So I mean, I don't mind. I don't mind going to Instagram in terms of my thoughts.
Kyrie is my little brother. He's my all-star point guard, superstar point guard, and if he decides he wants to say the Earth is flat, then so be it.
Don't get me wrong, everybody's entitled to their own opinion and is free to believe whatever they want. Yet, while for me personally I'm a firm believer that the Earth is round, when it came to B.o.B though and the downfall of his career, was this flat Earth controversy really all it took for him to disappear? Well, no. Sadly, B.o.B's flat Earth statements were only the first domino.
The English language is full of curses and spells, hence why we learn how to write in cursive and how to spell in grade school.
You can't hold on to old, obsolete beliefs that you've been taught. Like, everything that you've been taught is a lie. From my understanding, Donald has seen a clone of me in the cloning center. I am memory suppressed, however, I do have memories of what fit the description of the cloning center. Why are you just not speaking up on these things? You're right to think that, but take this into consideration. When I first found out about cloning, I was terrified. Like, supernatural shit was happening around my house. I was jumping out of my sleep, seeing shit. I got all types of knives and guns hanging out of my mattress and my pillows and shit. Like, I had to beef up my security. I was really scared for my life.
I didn't just wake up, Bob posted. To be honest, I fell silent because I had stopped caring, but now it is crucial that I get all the info to you. Before then stressing that his mind was allegedly all good, I don't have any diseases I'm battling, nor am I addicted to any substances, just so you know. Flat Earth conversation aside, over the past decade, B.o.B has expressed his anti-establishment views on countless other various topics, from claiming that 9/11 was fake, plenty of more clone rants, as well as, again, standing on his claim that the moon landing wasn't real.
You believe that the moon landing was not real. Is that a fact?
From what I've seen, I'm not convinced.
Continuously spreading false information to his millions of followers. Arguably nothing was worse, though, than these since-deleted comments. They say slavery lasted 400 years, but America is only 250, Bob asked. Have you ever seen a slave ship? They can find 1 billion-year-old dinosaur bones, but can't find any slave ships?
We need to talk about B.o.B. Recently, his conspiracy theories have gone from weird and silly to outright dangerous. The thought of a black man needing proof that slavery existed in 2017 could drive anyone insane. But B.o.B. insists slavery never existed. This continent is way older than 250 years, by the way. And slavery didn't begin with the United States, my friend.
At this point, it was very obvious that Bob needed help and seriously needed to log out of his Twitter account. I know a lot of people don't exactly understand all my tweets, he continued rambling on, but I'm not crazy. In time, all will be explained in my music. For an artist who once topped the Billboard charts with ease, and everything he touched turned to gold, I regret to inform you, B.o.B's conspiracies quickly started leaking into his music as well. In 2016, B.o.B began his new 4-part mixtape series named after Earth's elements, beginning with Earth, which included his diss track, Flatline, and then closing with Air. However, not only was his new music flooded with weird lyrical content, but honestly it was pretty trash, especially compared to his radio hits of the past. 2 years later in 2018, things got so bad to where B.o.B even claimed that he was retiring. Yet, like every rapper who says this, he was back a few months later. The big difference though, rather than working with music's hottest names, by his 4th album, basically everyone in the industry had abandoned B.o.B, and he was forced to release independently, under his own label called No Genre. Just like that, B.o.B's insanely bright future had now faded to black. However, there's still one last question we need to answer. Does B.o.B regret the way that his career ended? If he had a wish right now, would B.o.B take any of his actions back?
I feel like a lot of things got blown out of proportion from that whole time period, just during the whole flat earth thing, the flat line. And it's like, I feel like the public saw like the views and the back and forths, but there was like really shit that I personally was dealing with that nobody really knew. And so I talk about that in TED Talk.
Sitting down for an online interview here at CMZ in 2022 and saying that he wants to move past this old drama, a period he describes as a weird time overall. This interview was paired with the release of B.o.B's new track called TED Talk, where he tries to explain himself more, going back and forth between two personalities.
Bob, why the f you say the earth is flat? I mean, you threw our whole career away and then just fade to black?
If I knew this shit was gonna blow up and ruffle these feathers, I would have kept it to myself. Bob continues in the verse. I took a step, then look around, the world was angry as the whole music industry was rooting for me to fall. I couldn't even go on tour, the venues wouldn't let me perform. Radio stations boycotting, and then they just pulled all my songs. I didn't mean to offend my fans, I was just asking questions. You can't just come disrupt a fundamental belief structure and say that everything you've always learned is wrong. His former label boss, T.I., would later say about the situation. But I don't think that B.o.B has ever done anything to intentionally hurt or disrespect anybody. The truth is, whether intentional or not, following both his decisions to call out his label and then his non-stop conspiracy talk, B.o.B was essentially cancelled out of the mainstream industry. However, when asked if he still believes that the earth is flat,
do you still hold true to those views, or have you had discussions? Are you in the middle?
I don't know.
I'm so beyond that argument. I feel like it really doesn't matter if it's shaped like a U or a V. Or I'm trying to make sure my people are good, my family's straight.
At the age of 37 years old and having already accomplished more than what most artists do in their entire careers, B.o.B.'s incredible talent though was not enough to shield him from the consequences of his own actions. Today, you can find him trying to hold on to any last bit of clout, such as his recent 15-year anniversary tour for his debut album. However, unfortunately, B.o.B. still won't shut up about his conspiracies.